In a world of iconic riffs, immortal solos, the highest notes, and the most guttural growls, the debate of the greats has raged on for decades, and we settle them here. This is the Great Metal Standoff. Thank you very much, voiceover guy. Ladies and gentlemen of the rock and roll, punk, prog, hardcore, thrash, and heavy metal community, my name is Jason Evans, and this is the Great Metal Standoff, the podcast that pits music's greatest albums in track-by-track combat. Now, on this edition of the show, it's episode 5, so I thought I'd do something a little bit special, something a little bit differently. Normally, on this show, I put some of the world's most beloved albums against each other in track-by-track combat. Today, we're going to do a complete 180. Now, you see, we'll start all this off with a little quick story. On the very first episode of the show, myself and bass player from local Melbourne death metal band Escarion, Reese, pitted arguably the best Metallica album in Master of Puppets against Megadeth's best album, Rust in Peace. Back on episode 3, I invited Stefan Bradley of the Rock Capital podcast for a battle. And after we stopped recording, Stefan had informed me that in 2013, he had written and published a review on what he believes to be Megadeth's worst album ever, Super Collider. Later on down the line, Stefan hosted a discussion on his Rock Capital podcast with Reese and an additional guest named Ryan, where they talked about what they believed was the worst albums they had ever heard. And on that show, Reese was actually making a case in defense for what I believe is Metallica's worst album, Saint Anger. So as far as I can tell, the stage is set. For the second time on the Great Metal Standoff, Metallica and Megadeth are going to lock horns once again. But this time, it is a battle between each band's weakest title in their discography, Saint Anger and Super Collider. And Reese and Stefan are coming along for the ride. But first, the rules. Every album battle will be contested in track-by-track format by a podcast panel. Each individual panelist will select a winner of each pairing. The winning track receives a point to the individual's tally score. Tracks on albums that go uncontested can receive a tally point if a panelist awards it with a gold star. Once the battle is over, the album with the highest tally score will receive 1 grand point for that album. If a panelist's tally score results in a draw, both albums will receive half a grand point each. The album with the most grand points will be declared the winner. Alright, it is Metallica versus Megadeth once again here on the show, Saint Anger versus Super Collider. The battle to find out which album is, well, the least worse. Who will win? Make your predictions now. It's time to roll the audio. Okay, we are covering different ground right now on the Great Metal Standoff. I've got previous guests on the show. Reese and Stefan, you've both been on the show before.
Yes.
Now we're on the show together.
Welcome back.
And I'm a bit jealous.
Why?
I'm excited for a 3-person discussion, actually.
I want Jason to be my true friend, and you're in the way. So.
Oh, is this like physically like I'm in the center between you two?
Yes. So the Great Metal Standoff is actually just going to become a big fight between who's Jason's better friend, and it is obviously me.
Right. Okay.
So how do you feel about this, Jason? How do you feel about this jealousy and twine?
I'm surprised he is jealous, to be perfectly honest, because the whole point of the Great Metal Standoff was to try and get a 3-person discussion into the same room at the same time. So I'm quite happy that you were both able to turn up, to be perfectly honest. Either way, so on this edition of the Great Metal Standoff, we've decided to do something that Reese and I did on the very first episode, where we discussed Master of Puppets and Rust in Peace, Metallica's and Megadeth's best albums.
Great albums.
Now we're going to be talking about their 2 worst albums and finding out which one is the least worse.
And plus, we have an opinion on this, Jason. We've got Mr. Stefan Bradley from Rock Capital.
Yes.
Hello. And I find it interesting that both of you, although I would agree too, we all seem to agree that Saint Anger and Super Collider are the worst albums by these 2 bands. Is that agreed, or is it...
It took you convincing me a little bit, because when I originally pitched for a Saint Anger v. Bad Megadeth album, I was originally going to pitch Risk from 1999, but you two actually convinced me to do Super Collider. Why is that?
I think the truth is, for a start, there's so many Megadeth albums, and I haven't even listened to all of them. Probably not even... How many are there? Like 20 at this point?
Look, I reckon Super Collider probably hits rock bottom because, for Megadeth at least, because, I mean, like, you could say Risk because it's doing the same thing as Super Collider, but it sort of, Super Collider doesn't get to that sort of like corny edge of Risk.
And my easy answer is I haven't actually listened to Risk.
You haven't listened to Risk?
You haven't listened to Risk?
No, because if it's supposed to be a bad album, but with this one, I got a review copy of it. Maybe Jason, we can link the original review I did on the Facebook page for this website, and they sent me the CD, and Reese and a guy that we'll refer to as Megafan, because that's what I call him in the article. Yes. Reese and Megafan came over and we had a listening party. It was Megafan's idea to have a listening party. He liked the previous Megadeth album, 13, and all their other stuff. So it was kind of funny watching him have a bit of a meltdown while we were playing.
Did he have a meltdown?
Yeah, he was having beers while we were listening to this as well. So,
right.
Of course, the meltdown was imminent.
Imminent. Goodness gracious.
So, yeah, that was pretty funny. I would say that's the other reason why is, one, I can, obviously I've listened to Super Collider and I know it well. I've reviewed it.
Yep.
And
you did review it. It's at thedwarf.com.au. We'll leave you a link at our Facebook page, facebook.com/Metal Standoff Pod.
Exactly. So I probably would have not have been able to do Risk until I had like a decent amount of time listening to it. And plus this one's recent, and yeah, both me and Reese have literally gone to a listening party, listened to it.
Okay,
so it
and
makes
just
sense.
to confirm again, you say it shouldn't be Risk because it's a bit more of a cheesy album where Super Collider's a bit more of a serious.
It achieves its goal better than Super Collider.
Oh, okay.
Was Risk actually a bad album, or is it just that it's one of those things where it's not the Megadeth album that people wanted, but the songs themselves are actually not bad?
What you said, the second option is what, yeah. Because, little fun fact about Risk.
Yeah.
Marty Friedman, guitarist
Yes.
of Megadeth, very well-renowned guitarist.
He's considered one of the best
People keep
guitar player in their lineup at the time.
People keep assuming because he left straight after Risk.
Yes, to pursue J-pop.
Yeah, people thought it was because because it was so poppy. They thought he was very displeased with the direction of Megadeth. Not true.
That would have been his decision, wouldn't it?
Yeah, not true. He actually said recording Risk was actually a lot of fun.
Okay.
So he didn't leave because of the direction they took. He probably just left just to pursue solo stuff.
Right.
And J-pop, because now he plays with guitar chords that are way too complicated for mere mortals like us.
Those hands.
Yes.
Those hands.
But God damn it, I'm very jealous of. I wish I could have Marty Friedman's skill on guitar. He's bloody brilliant. Anyway.
Probably Mustaine too.
And Mustaine too, yeah. That's probably why they were the perfect duo in the 90s. However, the Megadeth legendary lineup did consist of Dave Mustaine, Dave Ellefson, Marty Friedman, and Nick Menza. Fast forward all the way to 2013, it's very, very different for Megadeth.
Yes, very different. And the lineup for Super Collider shall be Dave Mustaine on lead vocals and lead guitar.
Yep.
Dave Ellefson on the bass, Chris Broderick on lead guitar, and Sean Drover on drums and percussion.
What are your thoughts on Broderick? Because he was soon replaced after this album by Kiko, who played on Dystopia 3 years later.
Broderick's very distinctive with his sweeping techniques on the guitar. So you constantly see him doing a lot of sweeping, a lot of technical stuff.
Right.
Not a lot of feel stuff. Like Marty Friedman was able to sort of swing past technical and feel.
Okay.
Broderick's more technical. Like
Right.
hitting the notes on time, making sure his fingers are in the right place at the right time. Stefan, what do you think of this lineup?
You can go onto the booklet actually, and you can see which of the two guitarists wrote each solo. And even we got the Wikipedia page in front of us, and we can see who worked on some of the music. But I feel like if I think of Dave Mustaine as a director, or producer, I guess in the music sense, maybe he didn't give. They both didn't really have a chance to shine and have really amazing solos, as you would like for a Megadeth album. Although I will say, they had a bit of a Van Halen moment on Burn, where they opened with that little solo.
We'll get to that when we get to that, I think.
Yeah.
And with all that Megadeth talk, we go over to 2003 land, where Metallica, the kings of metal, they've come off the load and reload period. They've performed with a symphony, and they've sued Napster, and Jason Newsted ended up stepping off.
Yes.
And now they come out with Saint Anger.
Oh, yes.
Wow,
Very interesting time for Metallica. So the lineup for that album was Hetfield on rhythm guitar and vocals. You got Hammond on
On lead guitar.
No. No lead guitar.
There was no lead guitar because there was no solos,
Co-
but
just
so
guitar.
co-rhythm,
Co-rhythm.
co-rhythm guitar.
And Lars on the tins.
There was still some leads though, wasn't there?
There's the odd.
There's
few.
the odd.
I'd say there's
yeah.
the odd
There's
few
an odd few, but still. And then you have Lars on the tins.
on the team. We'll get to that.
And then who actually performed bass on the album was Bob Rock, the producer.
Their producer at the time.
Yes.
It was in. So, like we said, Jason Newsted, their bassist at the time, had opted to step away from Metallica, citing was it creative frustrations or just exhaustion?
Originally, he cited injury,
Okay.
but then as we sort of move along, we sort of realized that it did become a little personal.
There was some tension.
There was a
within
lot
the
of
band at
tension
the time.
between him and Mr. Papahet.
Yeah, it was due to Newsted wanting to pursue another band prospect called Echo Brain.
Yes,
Correct?
He
Echo
did
Brain.
pursue it, but Hetfield was like, you're in Metallica, stay in Metallica.
Yeah.
So James Hetfield is really not a fan of side projects for whatever
Yes.
reason.
Yeah, but he did do him eventually. He did do a solo show,
James
like
Hetfield.
yeah, not too long ago, about mid 2010s.
But those are all kind of small. You think of all the
Yeah.
artists who have, big side projects or anything. So
Mark Tremonti.
yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
think James Hetfield or anyone else from Metallica have any major side projects.
Maybe Trujillo, because he did Suicidal Tendencies in Aussie.
But
Oh,
yeah,
I
but
think
he
that
wasn't
was
in Metallica.
pre-Metallica.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
pre-Metallica.
They wouldn't be able to do that now because they really, for them, it's like once you're in Metallica, you're in Metallica. James Hetfield's always
Yeah.
like, Newstead, nobody can leave Metallica. I'm assuming you guys have both watched Some Kind of Monster.
I've
Yes.
watched most of Some Kind of
I
Monster.
love
That's
that
another,
documentary.
That's another reason, a good reason to check into the backstory of Saint Anger, because you see the creative the tension within the three of them after Newstead's departure, and also the culmination of James Hetfield's alcohol abuse, which ended up facilitating him in a medical rehab center for a good 9 months in 2001, in the middle of making that album.
Yes. Now you'll probably bring up a similar podcast that was done not too long ago called
Yes, so,
Metal Sludge Match, which was hosted
Our good
by
friend
Rock Capital.
Stefan here. Yeah,
That's
he
right, yep.
hosts another program called Rock Capital, and he had Reese himself on, and a mutual friend of theirs named Ryan.
Ryan. So
And-
what was brought up was that what was behind the making of the album shouldn't affect what you hear, but I think it should. I mean, like, so much happened in Saint Anger period.
It's on a case-by-case basis when it comes to these things.
Okay.
It depends on, this is not Metallica's first rodeo when it comes to making music. They released Bob Rock produced with them the Black Album,
Yeah.
and many metal fans or any musicians say that's one of the greatest sounding, well-produced albums ever made.
Yeah.
So it's like, was Bob Rock too busy playing bass to bloody produce this thing?
Well,
Well, we'll get into it.
with all that backstory considered, I think it's time to turn our attention to the timekeeper in the middle of the studio.
Hi,
Can you
Timekeeper.
He's
Hi, Time.
waving back. He's very pleased to be here. I don't think he's looking forward to this one because we've been talking a bit negatively about
Oh,
it.
he's
but
telling us to hurry up. Okay, fine.
Okay,
I think,
no
no,
worries.
he wants more time,
He-
actually.
yeah,
He's a
he was-
timekeeper.
Sorry about that, timekeeper, but I think it's time to begin. Saint Anger versus Super Collider. Could you please ring the bell? Thank you very much. Okay, the battle is on. Starting off with track 1, Frantic versus Kingmaker.
You want to start, Reese?
I think
My-
we'll start with the musician. out
My
of us all.
choice, my official choice. Drum roll, please. No, don't do the drum roll. It's fine.
I could try if you like.
Nah, because
Let's go with that.
we'll go with the papers. Kingmaker.
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 Right, okay.
Kingmaker is my choice. My official reason is because the riffs in it are awesome. The lyrics in Kingmaker are very deep, actually. It's about,
Yes.
actually addiction to painkillers.
Yeah, he was discussing the opioid epidemic that was going on.
Yeah.
And kind of is still going on.
And
in the
I
United
found those
States.
lyrics to be very, relatable in a way. Just like, Mustaine's actually writing about something.
Yes,
he can,
he has overcome a lot of
compared to Frantic,
tick, 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 tick.
yeah, the
tick,
tick
tock.
talks, the tick talks put me off.
The timekeeper likes that one, though.
Yeah, I guess so. He's
wow.
he's bashing along to the bell somehow, but I've
Yes.
turned his microphone off, so calm down,
Yeah,
mate.
you sit
Yeah,
there,
can you
mate.
calm down?
I will absolutely agree with everything you said, Reese, and it easily has to be Kingmaker, because I think Kingmaker is actually, it's probably the best song on both albums.
Best song of both
Ooh,
albums.
that's a big statement.
Right out of the gate, you're saying song of the album.
Yes, but it's better than anything on Saint Anger. It's better than anything on
Wow.
anything else on Super Collider, in my opinion. What do you think of the bass at the start, Reese?
Ellefson proves he's got some chops in Kingmaker, actually. I liked his bass playing in Kingmaker.
Yeah.
He's one of the best underrated bass players in the metal business, basically. Because he's got technique, and he's always, upbeat about everything he does. So everything he does is for a reason, so you always got to trust Ellefson.
He uses a pick, and Reese, you basically, well, based on what I know about you, is you basically refuse to use a pick when you play bass.
Yeah.
How many
Just
times
for
did you say
quick context sake, Reese is a bass player for a local death metal band, Escarion.
Hey.
And he seems to refuse to use a pick when he plays.
No, I refuse
Really?
to use a pick, yeah.
Okay, why is that?
I'm used to my fingers,
Right.
and it gets difficult because either
Does
you're
it?
good with your wrist or you're good with your fingers, basically. So,
Okay, right.
so I chose my fingers.
My personal opinion, I'm definitely taking Kingmaker too. Frantic is definitely not a favourite of mine.
Yeah.
Tick 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 tock, and it's and right out of the gate. And right out of the gate, Lars sounds like he's banging on bin lids, and I'm like, nah, I'm out. Kingmaker.
Yeah. Oh, Kingmaker.
I will say about both songs live, so there's lots of footage. Even just recently, Metallica played Frantic live. And
They've started busting those songs out.
yeah,
haven't
when
they?
they play
They're not afraid anymore.
the live mix without the tin cans, it sounds a lot better, and sometimes they would add solos to some of these songs as well.
Yes, they would.
Sounds good. And I also saw Megadeth live a few years ago, and I also opened with. I didn't open with, but they did play Kingmaker.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two songs from that album, they played Kingmaker, and they also played the Cold Sweat cover, and they also played the single from Dystopia, which hadn't come out at that time.
Wow.
And Kingmaker was great, So, I hope they keep playing that song live, because I think, there's got to be one good thing that comes from this album.
I
and
guess
it's
so.
definitely
I
Kingmaker.
reckon a couple of good things come from this album. I'm not, to be honest.
I'd like to
And
also
the
give
Cold
one
Sweat.
more honourable mention to Frantic, at least in the pre-chorus. So James is singing, "Keep on searching." Well, that was a bad voice crack with the, "And the search goes on." That sounds nice.
That was a pretty good.
That sounds nice. He
extra-
sounds nice.
It was a nice change up.
I do think Frantic is one of the better songs of Saint Anger, though. Despite the frantic tick, tick, tick talk thing,
I agree.
most of the song is actually pretty good compared to the rest of it. So, these were two of the... this is bad for the Saint Anger album, because Frantic is definitely one of their better songs.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's 1-0 across the board in favour of Megadeth. Track 2, Saint Anger versus Super Collider. Both title tracks going at it.
This
And
is an easy
both
decision.
properly placed, basically, between both and both.
Okay.
So, who goes first?
I'm going to just say this is an easy decision. It has to be Saint Anger, because
Really?
Super Collider, this was... I'm losing my voice. I'm becoming like Dave Mustaine now in his old age.
Oh, no.
Which is part of the problem for this song. This was the first single, and a lot of people were making fun of it when it came out, because a recurring thing from online comments, and I wrote this in my review too, is that this kind of sounds like a low tier Bon Jovi song. Bon Jovi,
Bon Jovi.
B-side. Now, I love Bon Jovi.
I
One
don't
of my
mind
favorite.
Bon Jovi
You're a massive
myself.
fan of Bon Jovi.
I mean, their new stuff is pretty bland too, I must say. But the problem with that statement, well, I mean, to make us even worse, is that John Bon Jovi, of course, has a good singing voice, and Dave Mustaine does not. So when you have like a Bon Jovi sounding song, you have the guitar is kind of average and dull and boring, and the solo even sounds like a Richie Sambora solo. But then you have Dave Mustaine's vocals, which when I listened to it again for in preparation for this podcast, I was like, wow, his vocals were even worse than I remember.
Whereas...
I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting like a criticism sandwich where you say a compliment, then the criticism, then another compliment, but no, straight off the bat. Oh, he's worse than I remember.
No, there was nothing really. There's nothing really to like it. It's not really a good Megadeth song. It's not a good Bon Jovi song. It's not a good alternative rock song, really, because the vocals are bad and the song itself is, I don't think, that interesting. Whereas Saint Anger, all the any good ideas I had on Saint Anger is, I think, in the title track. Obviously, you can't escape the bad production with the tin can drums, but I think the song overall is good.
It's got a good opening riff.
Yeah.
Has a weird switch from the build-up and then into the verse.
Yes.
You talking about Saint Anger?
Saint Anger,
Yes.
yes. And the chorus is definitely very easily singable.
Yeah.
It does get stuck in your head. But I must admit, there's no solos on Saint Anger, and I really enjoyed the Super Collider solo, to be perfectly frank.
Are you gonna pick Super Collider
I'm
on
actually,
that?
genuinely, I was
Oh,
gonna,
you are?
I was
Oh.
going to pick Super Collider, actually.
All right, you pick it,
There you
man.
go.
Yeah. I think, but was I? Ooh, then again, I'm actually.
Oh,
I'm
you're
questioning
deciding
myself
right now,
again.
aren't you?
Ooh.
I'm questioning myself again because I enjoy the solo, but in my opinion, it kind of only saves it because Mustaine sounds really snarly.
Okay, so I'll say my opinion. So
Yes.
to help you, I'm gonna pick Saint Anger,
Okay.
and the reason for that is because, yes, you're right, Jason. There is no solos. In fact, we'll
Yes.
probably bring that up a lot more in this episode. That there are barely any, like,
Yeah.
you know, deviance from rhythm, but Super Collider. The lyrics and the vocals did it for me. I mean, it's just really bland and really, well,
Yeah. Can you feel?
That's a
Is
good
that kind of it?
impression,
That's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
my
yeah.
impression.
So
it's probably not going to sound good for audio, but
in terms
well.
of depth, in terms of lyrics, and music. There's a rhythm at least.
Yes.
And there is some actually good lyrics. So I'm picking Saint Anger on the basis of that.
You've just reminded me why what I said about a minute ago was a brain fade. Yeah, I was always going to pick Saint Anger. I just reminded myself of the
You were always going to
solo. I was always going to pick it. I just realised, but the Super Collider solo I did enjoy.
Is this a good time to, because both the title tracks allude to the cover art, is this
Okay.
a good time to compare both?
Sure, you can mention the cover art.
So-
What do you like about the cover art?
So I think they're both actually really great. So you have the Super Collider one, which is whatever that sciencey thing is. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know anything about that. And you can kind of see what's Rattlehead. That's his name, right? The what's the Megadeth mascot called?
Rattlehead.
Yeah, Rattlehead. So you can
Right.
kind of see him in that. I don't know. That's supposed to be like a black hole in the collider. I don't know. I don't know anything about this stuff.
Neither do I.
It looks pretty cool. The color is nice, but I think the fact that it's kind of associated with the title track, plus it's actually a photo that's kind of been mucked around with a bit. Whereas the Saint Anger one is I don't know who did it, but it's a piece of art, and it's kind of iconic. And in the Guitar Hero Metallica,
Infamously, though.
yeah, they use it. They use it as
Okay.
So I think that the Saint Anger one is a very good one. I think it does sum up the album.
All right. Across the board, we've
So,
gone
Saint Anger.
1-1. All three of us have agreed on all the songs at the moment. It might separate a little bit, or we never know. But track 3, Some Kind of Monster versus Burn.
This one was easy.
This one was easy, was it?
I'm not going to lie. Some kind of
okay.
monster.
Some kind of
sorry,
monster.
before you go on, did you pick which artwork did you pick, Reese?
Oh shit. We were supposed to. Oh no.
Don't worry, it's fine.
Okay.
Just keep
Okay.
it low.
So I'm going to choose Saint Anger.
Yep.
Yep. So for the reasons I said, or
Yes, and it's just and I found this one just I don't know. There was I don't know. I think like in terms of like relating to the subject better. I think Metallica's artwork was better
Right.
than whatever the thing was in Megadeth's artwork. I just don't know what the hell that is.
Okay, well, there you go.
what do you think, Jason?
I'm pretty indifferent to both the cover arts, to be perfectly honest. I don't know. I'm pretty indifferent.
pretty
Doesn't really bother to me.
A pretty flat from you.
It's pretty a flat yeah,
Okay.
to be perfectly frank. Some Kind of Monster versus Burn. You said right out of the gate, Some Kind of Monster.
Okay,
Reese.
I chose Some Kind of Monster because I liked when Hetfield blasts out, like the chorus was really a good build up to, I think.
Okay.
Now let's talk about Burn, shall we? And the lyrics.
The lyrics.
When you hear a metal song with the lyrics "Burn, Baby, Burn," which was brought up in your Dwarf review, Stefan, actually.
And it's kind of quote unquote plagiarizing.
That disco song.
Yeah, that disco song. So when you hear that, I don't really think, oh, this is cheesy, this is a Disney thing. But then you think of that Burn Baby Burn, that pop song, that disco song. That's all I'm thinking of. And the sad thing about this is, I think Burn, everything else about Burn, is actually quite good.
Really?
Like it has that Van Halen solo at the start. I honestly didn't really listen to the lyrics much. What are the lyrics about?
Burning things.
According to Mustaine, he is thinking of a hypothetical situation. If someone was to get in trouble, what would they do to cover it up?
Burn.
Oh, really? Okay.
That kind of makes it fall flatter for me.
It's not as good as the Super Collider backstory, which Dave Mustaine actually stated just on the previous track, Super Collider. He actually stated that it's one of the very few songs that fell into place in one swoop. And he cited In My Darkest Hour and Use the Man as the other songs that was the easiest to write, and they all fell in one swoop.
Well,
in
you
the writing process and
You
all.
can't compare Super Collider to In My Darkest Hour,
Yeah,
can
I
you?
mean,
In terms of
him
quality.
running In My Darkest Hour in one swoop, that's amazing. Him running Super Collider in one is like, whatever.
All right. And obvious, but you'd still probably... Would you take Super Collider over Burn if it was, you know...
Yeah, I would take Super Collider over Burn any day. I mean, like, as I was saying, Burn Baby Burn, that lyric itself is not only plagiarizing, as you mentioned, Stefan, but it's also...
You're calling plagiarism. Wow.
Yeah, I said quote unquote, so I'm not.
Quote
I'm
unquote,
just
alright.
joking.
I'm gonna
obviously.
You're implying it.
I'm
Yeah.
going to say it's pretty damn corny for Megadeth to be singing about Burn Baby Burn, so it doesn't score any points with me. Some Kind of Monster wins big on this round, unfortunately.
Some Kind of Monster for me just feels like there's a reason why the radio edit is half its length.
Oh, you're
That
okay.
song is
That is
so
one of its
long.
flaws. It's a pretty long song, yes,
The song
understandable.
is so long and it takes about 1:30 before Hetfield comes in.
But bear in mind, Burn is a shorter song, right?
It is.
But it's unbearable.
Yeah,
I like the riffs on Some Kind of Monster a lot.
there are
I think it's a pretty good
decent
tune.
riffs.
I'm gonna go with Some Kind of Monster, and as I was saying about Burn before, besides the Burn Baby Burn, maybe the lyrics aren't so good too. But I thought I actually do like the Van Halen kind of solo thing at the start, and I think the riffs during the verse are actually pretty good. So I'm kind of saddened that everything else about this song could have worked if they didn't go down that Burn Baby Burn route.
I just find it funny that Mustaine made a deal out of that. It's one of the very few songs he says baby in it. Like, who cares if you use the word baby in it?
Mustaine.
I guess.
You know it's a pop song when you have baby in it.
Yep. Or a Led Zeppelin-y song.
So you both have gone Some Kind of Monster.
Yep.
Yep.
The problem with me is that I don't care about either of these songs, and
So
I
you
don't want to give any of them a
You
point.
don't wanna
but
give
I
any
have to. I have to choose. So I have to. It's once again, it's finding out which one is the least worse.
Okay, so
I'm
from
very
the
tempted
points,
to say Burn because I just don't like the length of Some Kind of Monster. But
you could base it off that because our reasons were short. And
yeah, I
sweet
guess
too.
so. But do you know what? There's a reason why Some Kind of Monster was cut in half for the radio for radio play back in the day. And I'll put up with Burn Baby Burn if it means Some Kind of Monster doesn't get a point. So I'm only taking Burn to
Damn.
spite Some Kind of Monster.
Damn.
But
Oh well.
in fairness, it gave a good title for a documentary the year later.
This is our first split.
It is the first split. So 2-1 in favour of Super Collider on my end, where it's 2-1 in favour of Metallica for my two guests here.
So it's even.
Yeah. Well, technically Metallica is in the lead.
Okay, just by 1 point.
By 1 point, yes. So if we stopped here, the grand total would be 2-1 in favour of Saint Anger. But we're not going to do that. We're going to make it all the way to track 11 because that's what we do because we're good, wholesome people, metalheads.
Yes.
Dirty Window versus Built for War.
To me, built for war, and the only issue I think I would have with that song is later on where he does that kind of like a war thing. Whoa, whoa.
Oh,
I remember
that kind of choir-esque a cappella kind of style.
I remember when
I didn't mind that.
when we had that listening party, and he was like, "This song's alright," and then that thing happened. That thing happened. He was like, "Oh my god!" He didn't like it, but you know what? I didn't like it at first, but I actually think it's not that bad now.
Now that you listen to it.
Yeah.
So you're going to give the point to Built for War on
because
top of Dirty Window?
Everything else about the song I thought was pretty good until that part, and now I don't even mind it that much. It kind of fits in, I suppose. So I'm happy with Built for War. I'm happy with that choice. Good riffs.
Okay.
And
What do you reckon it's like, that vocal kind of thing? Is it like a choir style, a cappella? What do you reckon that style kind of is?
looks like he just went to a mic. He just went, "Whoa."
Right.
God.
Right, okay. That's ASMR for the audio listeners.
Yeah, somebody make
Do it again.
something
Do
for
it
that.
one more time, please.
No, sorry. You only get
Oh,
you only get
for
one
God.
chance in this life
Man.
freeze. You blink and you miss it.
Well,
Jason?
there is a rewind button the moment this goes out. Anyway, what was going to be
you want me to go?
Yes, please.
Well, let's do this for both. I'm going to talk about both tracks here. So we'll talk about Built for War because we're on that topic.
Yep.
I found the track very awkward, to be honest with you. Not
Okay.
just for the reason Stefan said, that little a cappella thing at the end, but also when he was singing Built for War, he's just like, Built for War.
He repeats that a lot.
He repeats that a lot, and it's very awkward for me.
That is awkward. I'll agree with Reese on
And
that
so
point.
it kind of cancels it out for me because a lot of critics said that it was one of the highlights, and I disagree. I didn't think it was a highlight because it felt very awkward.
Okay.
And now to Dirty Window. It's very chunky. It's very long. But I found solace in the song because the I'm judging, I'm jurying, I'm executioner too. You can barely hear the tins in that one, and it was quite nice. And then when the chunk comes back, it's sort of forgivable for me.
Right.
So I'm picking Dirty Window.
You're going to take Dirty Window.
I'm going to take Dirty Window over Built for War.
I thought the drums were a bit more irritating in this one, to be perfectly frank. And I also thought that Dirty Window was a more frantic song than Frantic.
Well, there you go.
Well, there you go.
Agree.
So what is
I
Jason
can
going to
agree
do
with
now?
I'll be taking Built for War because I thought
Alright.
it was better construction. And
Better
Stefan,
construction.
did you take Built for War as well?
Yep, I don't really have anything else to say about Invisible Kid.
Really?
I have nothing to add to it. It's
Against-
a song.
Wait,
It's
so-
a song.
Invisible Kid's the next round.
Yes, it is, but we can
I'm
segue
sorry, I meant to say.
straight into
Sorry,
it.
Dirty
Dirty
Window.
Window.
Sorry, Dirty Window.
Okay, Dirty Window. Good. I thought if you were segueing, you were one
No,
step
no, no,
ahead
no,
of me.
no segueing.
All right, so you have nothing to say about Dirty Window.
No.
Built for War it is. Okay, now we'll segue into the Invisible Kid battle.
Well, Obviously, Stefan's made his opinion on the next round.
yeah,
No, I haven't.
Invisible, Invisible Kid versus Off the Edge. My personal opinion was Off the Edge doesn't really do much to me.
It just has a good riff. I think that's it, really. A decent riff. Not as a song though.
Reese, your input?
Off the Edge was kind of boring, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So I'm going to pick Invisible Kid because it's a very pulsing song as well. As much as like Dirty Window and Invisible Kid for me are perfectly matched because they're both similar songs. They're both of equal length and they both have the same sort of like idea for them. So I'm just going to say Invisible Kid.
Reese, Dirty Window is 525. Invisible Kid is 830. As it's
What the f-
similar in length.
What the hell?
You
That's-
must be confusing some songs, man.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think you've
Sorry,
confused
so
something
I'm
there.
thinking of Some Kind of Monster and Invisible Kid. I do
Gotcha.
apologize.
Yes.
So, Dirty Window and Invisible Kid do have similarities. They both have the same kind of switch. So they have chunky verses and then they go into softer sort of like.
Right.
So, but I liked Invisible Kid because it had the same energy. It's pulsing energy. Off the Edge was kind of boring.
Yeah, okay, so
honest.
you're taking Invisible Kid because you thought Off the Edge was boring and there's a bit of dynamic in Invisible Kid.
Yep.
Okay, right. And Stefan, what was your evaluation of the two?
I'm just gonna go with Invisible Kid because even though it's a longin, as I'm calling it a longin, Off the Edge doesn't have anything going for it either, other than a pretty good riff, but
Okay.
not a good song.
Right. Once again,
You're stuck.
I'm in the situation of I don't like either song, but I've got to give a point to spite the other. Because my opinion was Hetfield sounded quite off-putting in the
Invisible
song.
Kid?
I genuinely thought he sounds a little off.
Think about the lyrics. What is Invisible Kid about?
Invisible Kid. I'm not quite sure, actually. I'll quickly get the lyrics up of Invisible Kid on the,
On the old
Metal
computers?
Standoff-ometer 5000. Invisible Kid, never seen what he did. Anyway, there's that. Well, he's kind of fending off a demon inside of him, I presume.
It's what mostly Saint Anger's about. It's about his own demons on
Yeah.
the inside. So, lyrically, compared to Off the Edge, it's a step up.
Okay. Yeah, I guess so. Once again, I genuinely thought I don't like either track because they're very annoying.
Jason's
But
stuck.
Once again, yeah, I think I would have to go with the two of you and take Invisible Kid because Off the Edge I'd rather take something that has a bit of dynamic in it than
None at all.
boringness, boredom. That's what I'm going to do.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yes. So
Wow.
it's 3-2 in favour of Super Collider for myself. It is 4-1 in favour of Saint Anger for Reese, and it is 3-2 in favour of Saint Anger for Stefan. Ooh. It's very, very interesting here. Okay. My World versus Dance in the Rain.
Easy.
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 What is it?
Dance in the Rain.
Really? Okay.
Now,
I thought you were going to say My World.
No, My World's terrible.
My World, you can't have it. I
My
didn't
World's
enjoy that song
okay.
either.
My opinion for Off the Edge goes to My World. It was boring. There was nothing really special about My World for me. But for Dance in the Rain, I remember listening to Dance in the Rain. Megafan was not interested in hearing Dance in the Rain because guess why, Stefan?
Is it because it's got the...
David Draymond.
But
David Draymond.
actually, I think he, as far as I know at
Okay.
the time, I know he liked Disturbed's David Draymond's voice, but it's
thought-
not
no,
for
he
the
d-
song.
He didn't care for the song, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't excited because we told him like, yeah, David Draymond's on the track. He's like, oh, really? But he listened to the track, and he didn't like it, didn't he?
I can't remember, to be
But
honest. Because this was in
I-
2013, by the
I
way.
re-listened to this. I re-listened to this track, and I fell in love with it because it's kind of different compared to the other tracks, apart from Kingmaker. It sort of goes back into metal in this song for me, especially the last minute. The last minute is insane.
David Draymond's actual bit.
Yeah, David Draymond's actual bit. They actually amped up the riffs. The riff was freaking awesome in that section.
I would
Okay.
I would give it to Dance in the Rain as well. And they both songs kind of have a cringe title anyway. So it's like, which is the least cringiest title? I don't know what Dancing in the Rain is about, but
Oh well, I can answer that.
Yep.
So in the chorus, it can all be explained in the chorus, gentlemen. This is where good songwriting comes in. It's all explained in the chorus. You can just forget the verses. So he's saying, learn to dance in the rain, not wait in the sunshine. So it's basically, learn to dance with your demons.
Okay.
Don't just wait for the good things to happen. Learn to swim in the bad things, basically. I thought that was pretty nice touch.
Do you know where he found that lyric?
Oh, no.
I read a commentary of Dave Mustaine describing these songs,
Oh, no.
and guess where he found that statement from?
Please say it's a good place.
A fortune cookie.
Oh!
what?
Have I just turned
Why?
Oh,
Why
you
does he have to ruin this for me? Far out.
Sorry for your ears, listeners.
Sounds like it was a bad luck cookie then, huh?
I thought
okay,
it'd be
I'm
like,
still
ooh, inspirational.
My choice is going to remain, even though Mustaine chose the lyrics poorly.
You got it from a fortune cookie?
Stefan, does your opinion change because you found it from a cookie?
Not really. I mean, like I said, both songs are really cheesy, and I wrote in my review, actually, Dance in the Rain had some cool ideas that weren't always executed well. You probably won't care for Disturbed frontman David Draymond's guest vocals at the end, as it's just
Really?
awkwardly shoved in. Well, that's what I said in 2013. I don't really agree with that now. I agree with pretty much everything else I wrote in the article, but not that one. I think it's the best. It's the best part of the song.
It's the best part of the song. It's
by
a really
far.
good part of the album, actually. It's part of a highlight. I
Yeah,
think.
the rest of the song isn't as good, but it's better than anything with My World.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say. I just don't like the chorus even. It's my world.
And you
It's my
can't have
world.
it.
You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I
It
forgot
was
about that
it
part.
was
That makes
so
it even worse.
boring.
It makes it even worse. Yeah.
I thought Hetfield was almost screaming at some points. Genuinely, do you know what I thought when I listened to My World?
What did you think, Jason?
I reckon that's where 3/4 of the metalcore scene at the time got their sound from.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah,
So, Jason, you've got to make a decision.
I do have to make another big decision. And I'm struggling. I'm really struggling perfectly.
Why are you struggling?
Once again, there's songs I'm not fully invested in, and it's kind of, if I'm giving a point, it's not really doing them very much justice. It's kind of just to move along.
Well, you've listened to both songs, right?
Yes, I have.
Which one did you find most entertaining?
Do you know what? Just because it's more memorable, I'm going to take My World.
Oh my God. Okay.
Memorable.
It's more memorable, not for great reasons, but you know what? It's
Oh,
once again, Dance in the Rain didn't really do much for me, so I have to, for those reasons.
Shame. Anyway. Well, not shame, but just shame.
Yeah, it's a shame. It
It's a
is
shame.
But seriously, I genuinely believe half of that metalcore scene has gotten their sound from that song, because it's just,
Wow.
it's bashing. It's literally what it is. It's bashing drums, and you're going, I am screaming very loud. Anyway, I can't do that without
Wow,
making
Jason.
audio sound
I'm not.
bad.
I'm not a fan of metalcore, really. So
You like Killswitch Engage?
I don't mind Waking the Fallen by Avenged Sevenfold.
You like
Kills-
Avenged Sevenfold?
Well, Avenged Sevenfold are a lot of genres, I think.
Yeah.
Killswitch Engage. It's not that I like them; they're just a band that exists that I'm aware of, and I don't hate them.
Oh,
that's,
okay.
that's all I have to say about that.
See, you like a metalcore band.
There you go. Either way.
Yeah.
Moving on now.
Moving.
Shoot Me Again versus Beginning of Sorrow. Now, I have a question about Shoot Me Again.
Oh, here we go.
Do you reckon that some of those lyrics are probably, what's the right word to say, ammunition about the Napster case?
Bring up the lyrics, Jason.
Well, I can recite one right now. Shoot me again, I ain't dead yet.
Oh, well done.
That's one.
Okay. It's.
I
Oh my.
won't go away. Right here I'll stay. Stand silent, flames, stand tall till it fades. Shoot me again, I ain't dead yet. All these shots I take, I spit back at you. All the shit you fake, come back to haunt you.
So you know what? I'm gonna, as I couldn't remember this song at all before I started listening to it in preparation for this podcast, and then when I got to this song on Saint Anger, I thought, you know what? This is a sick riff, and it's a long song,
It is
but it
7
doesn't.
minutes.
But it doesn't matter. It didn't bore me at all. Like I could listen to this. You know, this would be a good song to just chuck in the car and just it's loud.
Jam.
Yeah, just a good. It feels like a song that I should hate and find really boring, but I don't know. There's something about it. I just think I just like it. It just sounds great.
So Shoot Me Again's your choice?
Yes, and you know what? Back to the Super Collider cut. In my review, I didn't talk about every single song on Super Collider.
Okay.
But you did about this one?
I wrote this
Oh no.
after Dance in the Rain. I wrote this. The rest, such as Beginning of Sorrow, are generic and would be the first songs cut from smartphones when space becomes sparse.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I wrote that.
Right.
So, Beginning of Sorrow gets a mention before its genericness. This is. I think I was gonna vote against Beginning of Sorrow regardless of whatever the Saint Anger song was. But I actually really like Shoot Me Again. But whatever it is, I would have voted against Beginning of Sorrow anyway, because this is more like the beginning of I don't care about the rest of the songs on the album.
Yeah.
It's too generic.
I'm gonna pick Shoot Me Again
Okay.
because dynamics again is a big thing for me,
Right.
and the vocals are a bit of a step up in this song, I think. Didn't you find that? Just like there was a bit of a nice sweet moment at the beginning.
When I was doing note taking, because I listen to the albums while taking notes, so I've got content to discuss in the album and sound slightly more intelligent than I actually am.
Jason.
Well, I was listening to it, and I thought in the pre-chorus, Hetfield had that gritty load voice that he had on the load-reload kind of period of time.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, excellent. And yeah, once again, I think the first riff in Shoot Me Again, the change from intro to verse was a bit like Saint Anger, the big gritty build-up stuff, and then the change. And is Kirk Hammett doing the backing vocals in there, or is that just
Probably
Hetfield
it's
in the back?
most likely Hetfield.
Because I thought I heard like a Take a Shot or the All the Shots lyric. I thought that was said by Hammett, but if it's Hetfield, please correct me.
It's probably Hetfield. I don't think Hammett has ever done like backing vocals on anything studio-wise.
Do you know,
I don't know.
Do you know what was funny? When I listened to the title track the first time, you know the flush. You know when it hits the chorus and you flush it out. You flush it out.
You thought that was?
I thought that was Hammett.
that was Hetfield.
That was Hetfield. Okay.
But live, it's Trujillo.
yeah.
Because he's Jason Newsted used to do like all the backing vocals.
Yeah,
I
he
think,
did.
or sometimes would sing songs.
He would
on his
sing
own 'cause
along choruses
he's
with
a
him.
pretty good.
He was a pretty good
singer.
vocalist, actually.
Pretty good vocalist. Yeah, maybe not singer's the right word, but he's a pretty good vocalist.
If you want to hear Newsted's best vocal ability, I most definitely recommend his Project Newsted. Remember when he had that project called Newsted?
Yeah.
He brought an EP called Metal and a record called Heavy Metal Music. There are a lot of songs on Heavy Metal Music that really are very, very enjoyable. I would recommend As the Crow Flies, King of the Underdogs, Soldier Head, and if you want really, really sinister, not guttural, that's probably the wrong word, but like sinister heavy shit, check out Nocturnus too. But back to Saint Anger, I would also say, unfortunately, I wouldn't go with Shoot Me Again. I would go with Beginning of Sorrow for this reason.
For that reason.
For this reason. David Ellison had stated that Beginning of Sorrow is laying out scenarios about decisions that begin a future sorrow. And Mustaine, in a commentary that I listened to, this is how he broke down the three verses. There's three verses of Beginning of Sorrow, and this is how he broke it down as. Verse number 1 is, a mother is pregnant with a child with complications and must decide on either aborting, which would guarantee her survival, or delivering the child and dying in the process. Verse number 2 is the perspective of the child growing up in a foster home, and verse number 3 is the child growing up, finding a girl, getting her pregnant, and leaving her, continuing a never-ending loop.
On that point, that sounds pretty, depth
That's
defying.
actually pretty deep.
But execution was terrible.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I agree.
So you both are going to go Shoot Me Again?
Yes.
Funny enough, I'm
the
taking
music is
Beginning of
generic.
Sorrow.
All right.
Yeah.
You take that Beginning of Sorrow.
I do I quite enjoy interesting and deep storytelling in music, actually.
Yeah, I
Dupe.
think we all do. I think I just like the heavy riffs on on Shoot Me Again.
I thought it was also just quite a bit. Yeah, it was a bit weird. It was weird sounding. It was a bit frenetic about it. It was that was something I quite enjoyed about it.
Yeah.
All right, this one I'm very interested in learning about because this is actually going to link to a conversation that you mentioned on your Rock Capital show, Stefan, that I'd like to go deep into. Sweet Amber versus the Blackest Crow.
Oh yes, this was a good round. This one.
I reckon this is a very good round.
So I wrote this in the review. So I'm gonna go with Blackest Crow. One of the reasons is was it Sweet Amber? I can't even remember anything about Sweet Amber. Don't really care.
Sweet Amber had a nice intro riff at the very beginning. Before the main riff hits, it's got like this dun 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 dun. That's something I don't mind actually.
What I like about the Blackest Crow? Well, here's what I wrote in the review. The 2013 Stefan says the Blackest Crow should have been a disaster. It features a prominent
Optimistic?
It features a prominent fiddle. Yes, that's right, a fiddle. And the lyrical content tells of a broken relationship. Somehow, it works. Unlike most of the album, Mustaine's lyrics don't make me sigh in shame, and the metaphor of the Blackest Crow is actually quite cool. That's what I wrote. I think the song, I feel like, maybe some of the other songs. Whoops.
Oh,
Sorry,
he's trying to turn on the Blackest Crow almost.
No, I actually just turned on Purify. That's
Oh,
the song
Purify.
Not that
When we get to
song.
Purify, oh
Excuse
boy,
me.
oh boy.
Yeah. So was it? Yeah. So the Blackest Crow. I feel like Super Collider. He did it in one day, whereas I don't know if this is the case, but Blackest Crow to me sounds like he put all his time and effort into the song. Like he put a lot of time into it. Because I'm pretty sure, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is about his stepmother who I think was found dead after she went missing. I believe that's what the song is actually about.
It was also about it also linked to her battle with Alzheimer's.
Oh yes, well yeah, that's kind of a one thing that leads to another. So I feel like I said, I don't know, I don't know how long it took him to make this song, but to me, when I listen to it, I feel like he really put his heart and soul into it, and he would have probably spent a lot of time in it because there's lots of different elements. It's got the fiddle, it's got the string section. It's weird. It shouldn't have worked, but I think it's a great song.
I would actually agree with you too. I'm actually going to take the Blackest Crow as well. Also because as much as we've been talking about all these songs throughout this podcast, the Blackest Crow, I got to it, and it sounded different to everything else.
Yeah.
And I liked something different because I was getting a little bit bored going through the songs and not enjoying it. And then the Blackest Crow hits, and the intro riff, I actually thought there was like a banjo sound in it. And I listened to an interview with Dave Mustaine saying it's actually something that he called a ganjo. It's banjo strings on the body of a guitar.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
So he called it a ganjo. And that was a really nice addition, and I really enjoyed it. And once again, I'm not a big... Mustaine I can put up with vocally, but he sounds a little bit strange vocally in this album. But this one worked out for me. So for those reasons and what you've said, Stefan, I'm taking the Blackest Crow.
Yeah, he does sound better on this. He vocally does sound better than in Super Collider, I think. And like I said, this pun is not intentional, but this should have been the Black Sheep on the album, but instead it's the Blackest Crow.
It's probably my song of the album, actually.
Yeah, I would...
On the same level as Kingmaker,
yeah,
actually.
Yeah, Kingmaker and Blackest Crow.
I think those are my top two.
Yeah, I mean, Kingmaker is more of a Megadeth song, but yeah, I agree with you. Blackest Crow is probably right up there. Yeah.
Reese, your 2 cents?
Blackest Crow. Blackest
Really?
Crow all the way, because it actually has probably one of the first tracks to have that sort of dynamic about it, a very wacky dynamic with the ganjo, as he calls it.
Ganjo, I don't know.
And then the strings, and then, it's a very dark subject matter, and it's something that relates to Mustaine, so he's obviously going to write lyrics better on this song, I think. Vocally, it was really hard for me to get it, but I got used to it over time. Like, when I first listened to it with you guys, I was just like, the music's really coming together on this one, but oh, damn it, Mustaine, your vocals. But over time, I sort of matured to the track. So I feel a bit more inclined to say that this was probably one of the better highlights on the album. It's really rather a step in Megadeth's discography, actually.
Well, this is kind of unanimous. How surprised are you guys that this, of all songs, is actually one of the best ones on the album? I mean, I guess I'm not saying a lot about the other songs, but I'm just saying, like I said at the start of that paragraph or in the review, it should have been a disaster. How surprised are you? This song is actually great.
It should have been a disaster. I mean, like, imagine that he just wrote about something bland with the banjo and the strings, like, burn, baby, burn.
But in the meantime, we'll just give a little bit of a discussion on Sweet Amber. Okay,
yeah.
This is what I wanted to mention. This is an excerpt from the Rock Capital Sludge match that Stefan, Reese, and their friend Ryan discussed. You were not a fan of the lyric, wash your back so you don't stab mine.
I wasn't.
Neither was
You
I.
weren't. Neither were you. I don't mind it, actually, all that much, to be perfectly honest.
You know, that lyric in particular, yeah, I still don't like to this day. I mean, I probably did defend a lot of Saint Anger on that podcast, defending it to the brim end. But that lyric, no. That was probably one of the low points for me.
Well, there you go. I'm not giving Sweet Amber a point, but I just wanted to point out a differentiation here, because I actually don't have too much of an issue with that lyric. I'm quite...
Well, okay, so there's a reason behind that, right? Like, it's just... It rings nice.
I think it's not too bad, you know. It's a play on of if I scratch your back, you scratch mine. It's like that the balance of trust and all that kind of thing. And I thought it was nice. I'm washing your back. I'm doing extra, work and help for you, so you don't inevitably stab me in the back. Just thought,
Because
doubling down so you don't get betrayed.
I think this was a key scene in some kind of monster doco. I haven't seen it in a while, but what I remember was, so he kind of... do you remember this part, Reese, when he came up with this particular line in the doco?
Oh, that line in particular.
Yeah, I think...
Was it like all of them in the same room trying to think of lyrics?
I'm trying to remember, but I think it was something that... I think they're having trouble with someone outside of the album, something like that. And... then he just came up with the lyrics with the word on the spot. I'm just thinking, that's not even a great line, man. And then they just go and record it, and that's kind of the problem with the album. I think is that all the bad ideas, they kept the bad ideas. This was a bad idea.
Yeah, Sweet. This song in particular it's not the worst one on the album. We'll get to that soon. Yeah, we all know what we're going to be talking about here. Yeah,
and kind of just like with Beginning of Sorrow, as I mentioned before, I was going to vote against this song regardless of what came up against it. Most like because of that lyric and the fact that we actually have a good song, The Blackest Crow. I'm pretty much doomed it to oblivion as soon as we see it.
Yeah, well, we all unanimously picked it. Plus,
yeah.
This podcast is the reason why I have listened to Super Collider for the first time all the way through. Yeah, that was a big standout. And since doing that in researching this podcast, now in my free time, I do seek out The Blackest Crow. It's really a really enjoyable song.
Yeah.
Okay, we are coming up to the final three, boys.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, so we'll just give a quick update on the tally scores at the moment.
Oh, boy.
For Rhys McKenzie of Escarion,
Here we go.
your tally score at the moment stands at Saint Anger 6 to Super Collider's 3.
Okay.
Stefan, it is currently tied at 4 apiece.
Oh, wow.
And for myself, it is in favour of Super Collider 5 to 3.
So Stefan's neutral. I'm Saint Anger.
I'm
and Jason,
Super Collider, yes.
Which is interesting because on the Metal Sludge Match podcast on Rock Capital, the idea was that we had, instead of like defending an album, it was like you do the opposite. You say why the album that you picked is the worst, and the one you picked was the Saint Anger one. So you have to spend the entire podcast saying why you hated it.
Why I hated Saint Anger?
Yeah.
No,
You were defending it.
I defended Saint Anger, but it wasn't my topic. Ryan was...
Oh, wait, sorry. Yeah, that's
Ryan-
right.
Ryan
Yeah,
was...
Eviscerating.
attacking Saint Anger, saying why it was the worst.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah,
I
you were
was
doing the
Metal Machine
that's
music.
That's right. Yeah, sorry.
And Ryan didn't like my reason for hating Metal Machine music.
Okay, yeah,
By
you did
Lou Reed.
defend Saint Anger. Yeah.
All right. So
next
with
round.
the scores being updated, this one I'm very intrigued by what it could be. I feel like it could be unanimous, but you never know. The Unnamed Feeling versus Forget to Remember.
Yeah, this was easy for me.
This one's very easy for me.
I can't even remember a single thing about Forget to Remember.
Really? So it's okay. So we're gonna go unanimously Unnamed Feeling. I'm getting this.
Yeah, Unnamed
Yes.
Feeling, yeah. There was nothing to really remember about Forget to Remember.
Yeah.
That was really hard to say.
I say Unnamed Feeling because I believe that is song of the album.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's a good choice, I have to say. That's a good choice for album pick. But
Yes, because the way I think of it, a lot of this album, for example, Shoot Me Again, My World, Dirty Window, even Invisible Kid, because I don't enjoy that song. A lot of that, it's loud-ass drums with a very irritating tin can sound, and James Hetfield doesn't sound like he's all there. Unnamed Feeling, in my opinion, has a brooding riff, and it has a bit more of like a sinister psychedelic feel.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I can't stand about Saint Anger has been scaled back.
Oh. Like how badly scaled back?
Oh, it's been scaled back to a more tolerable level for me.
Okay.
Where I can enjoy the song and seek it out numerous times.
I'll have to agree with you. The Unnamed Feeling feels like it's a step above a lot of tracks, maybe. For the chorus is really booming for me, actually, on Unnamed Feeling. You know, when he screams the title of the track.
Yes, the Unnamed Feeling.
That really
comes
was a
alive.
goosebumpy moment for me.
That is, yeah. Once again, brooding,
Brooding,
sinister.
Yeah.
And
I have nothing to say other than that it's more memorable than Forget to Remember, or whatever it's called. I don't remember its name.
Well, we did forget to remember because it was forgetful to remember.
It was, yeah.
Sorry, Mustaine, but it's true.
all right. So that is taken out too.
I'm not looking forward to this
let's
next
update
round.
let's update the scores now. 5 to 4 for myself in favour of Super Collider. Rhys McKenzie 7 to 3 in favour of Saint Anger, and it's now 5 to 4 for Stefan in favour of Saint Anger. I'm looking forward to this. I feel like Reese and I are
Yeah.
going on the same path on this one.
Yeah. Okay.
Purify versus Don't Turn Your Back.
Listen, this was a hard round for me.
Why?
I didn't like either of these tracks.
I don't like either
Neither.
of them either.
So this was a hard thing to choose, and I chose Don't Turn Your Back.
Okay.
Now, the reason I did it, because I wanted to pick Purify, because Turn Your Back sounded a bit Jimmy.
I have nothing to say about it in my notes.
There was nothing to say.
I couldn't
What about
think
even
of
the
much.
commentary?
No,
there was nothing?
Not much in the commentary. I think
See,
it's a
that's
pretty
what I mean.
broad topic.
It's
I
a-
would admit it's
yeah.
a fairly broad topic.
It was
due
broad,
to,
but
you know, friends don't turn your back on your friends.
Purify was just sludgy, and not even good sludge. It was just like mud sludge. Just like you get a bunch of mud in your mouth, and that's Purify.
Right.
It didn't. There was no satisfying moments in Purify for me.
And the drums are back.
And the drums are back.
And James Hetfield sounds quite dire.
And the lyrics really.
There's nothing
There's
memorable
nothing
about
there,
it.
so I had to choose Turn on Your Back because it had the gym feel. At least that got consistent about it.
Purify is my least favourite Metallica song.
Really?
I've worked out
Ever?
Purify is my least favourite Metallica song
Ever?
out of everything. Yep.
Wow.
I don't think Metallica would agree with you.
Really? Probably not.
I'm gonna go with Don't Turn Your Back.
Oh.
For one reason only. That's because I don't care for it at all. But when I listen to it, I was like, this song's got some energy. It's got some Megadeth energy.
Yeah, it's,
So that's
it's,
the only reason
it's-
I'll go for it.
It's exercise Megadeth, basically. You can
Yeah,
just
yeah.
run. You can run to it at least.
It's like, oh, we got one more song left. Let's, okay, what do Megadeth do? We do that. Yeah, people would like this stuff. Okay, there you go. I'm like,
Alright.
yeah, it's good enough for me.
Okay, so this is where things are going to get very, very interesting. Final
so
song.
You voted for Don't Turn Back.
I
didn't you?
voted. I only went with "Don't Turn Your Back" because I really don't like Purify. It's
That's
it's
fair
another
enough.
case of I don't like either song. How do I give a point to spite the other one?
Mm.
All right, and last and probably least, let's be perfectly frank,
Mm.
All Within My Hands versus Cold Sweat, a Thin Lizzy cover.
This is an easy one for me.
This is an easy one for me too.
Is it?
Yes.
Thin Lizzy cover Cold Sweat easily. It's a great cover.
Reese?
All Within My Hands.
All Within My Hands.
They did an acoustic cover of it recently, right?
And I
And that was
enjoyed that
that was
cover.
a brilliant cover.
I
But
haven't heard
I
it, actually.
want to keep this on the album version of the song.
Yep.
Is that fair enough?
Go ahead.
Now, if you bring up the lyrics, Jason, and just
Yep.
have a nice look at them, then they're not really, it doesn't look like there's much, right? So we're just going to bring them up. Yeah,
Yep, it's coming
the-
up and they're
it's
loading.
coming up.
Here we are.
It doesn't look like much, right? Or maybe it does, but those lyrics are really good because it's all about the power and it's all about the power in his hands, basically. It's just about, like, what he has the ability to do when he gets angry. It's all within my hands, basically. It's about his demons, essentially. It's about his anger, sort of like what he's able to do with these two hands. And, I really think that's like him being really, like, honest and really, like, poetic for me. So I felt like that was a step up over Cold Sweat. Now, don't get me wrong, Cold Sweat was a great cover of a Thin Lizzy song. But I also felt like, I get the feeling like they just ran out of ideas.
You think
Right.
also, I guess, All Within My Hands would get a vote in its favour because it is an original song and not a cover.
Yeah,
So there's a
and
point in that favour.
it's a very weird song as well. It's a very it's all over the place.
It is. I'm not sure if I enjoyed the very all over the place nature. In fact, when I was writing the notes, it's like, for a verse, the first half sounds good. I wrote it like a chemical equation for some reason, but that's how we do it. Verse. First half sounds good. There's a dreamy music interlude, and then the second half isn't as great because then Hetfield just really lets it out. Because he does let it out in the
He
verse.
does let it out, but I kind of felt it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Kind of felt it.
I really enjoy the part where it's in the chorus and he's really letting out, hate me now.
Yeah.
Kill all within my hands, hate me now. That.
It's really raw.
That's
right?
very raw. When I was writing these notes, I didn't enjoy it, but I must admit, he has started to grow on me as I've been listening to it since, and I would actually take All Within My Hands.
Ooh, wow.
It's
Now-
grown on me.
When we listened to it, we were just like, oh my God, this is a great cover of Cold Sweat. Like,
And it is.
it was a great
And
cover.
I played it live as well at that Megadeth show that I said earlier, and it was performed well too. I think he uses his strengths in the cover as well. So it's not like in Super Collider where he tries to sing. His vocals, he growls really low, and it's quick. And the riff sound really loud.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a heavier version of it, and the guitar solo sounds great too. So it's pretty much everything I wanted out of a Megadeth cover of a classic rock song.
That's fair. That's
So
very fair.
I'm going with Cold Sweat.
All right. No worries. Just one final thing on All Within My Hands. Yes, it has grown on me, but I know you wanted to talk in the context of the album version, but I would take that acoustic version any day.
Oh, don't get me wrong. That acoustic version is brilliant.
Right.
And it sort of gives the song more sense. You know what I mean? It's like it cleans up its structure as opposed to the experimental one that was displayed.
And there's a small, intricate solo in
But
there by Hammett.
I had that moment where it grew on me, and it's still growing on me as we speak. So it has that weird effect on me. I don't know.
This weird build.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel the tension, you can feel the build, and then he just releases it, and you feel it too.
Yeah.
It's like a
That's why it gets
strong resolution.
That's why it gives me my point, because it's an original song compared to the cover on Megadeth, and it just feels like something that they're actually taking a risk on the.
I guess
actually,
so.
Stefan wanted to bring up something about that.
I'm not a big fan of the kill
compared to
part, unfortunately.
the two albums compared to each other, like the risk factor.
Oh yes,
But we'll bring that up after the scores, I
Okay.
think.
But then again, Megadeth already tried risking. What are you talking about? They came up with an entire album.
This
for
this
that.
is actually something clever he came up with.
Okay, right.
Trust me.
But just one more thing on All Within My Hands. I'm not a fan of the kill part.
The kill. Oh yeah, the kill part.
Not a fan of that.
Okay, I can understand why, but still.
But for everything before kill, that's what's going to give it the point. Okay, we have reached the end of the battle.
Okay.
The final standing is for Stefan Bradley of Rock Capital and of Player One and of former EP of Mosh Pit, because you're the Sin MVP.
Yeah.
He genuinely is, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
All right.
No
It is
doubt.
Super Collider 6 to St. Anger's 5. So that's 1 point to Super Collider.
Whoa.
That's 1 grand point to Super
Wow.
Collider. For Reese McKenzie, St. Anger 7 to Super Collider's 4. So that's another grand point to St. Anger. So we're one apiece, and I, unfortunately, why, as me as host having the deciding vote, I don't know. It's very tense.
It's mostly Super Collider, I'm going to guess.
St. Anger 5, Super Collider 6.
Yeah, there you go.
Your winner and least worse out of Metallica and Megadeth's worst album catalogue, 2013's Megadeth Super Collider with 2 grand points to 1.
Yeah, I don't suck as much as the other crappy album. Yay.
Yay! You obviously saw that coming, didn't you?
No, I didn't know what to expect, because it's not an easy choice, because actually I'm going to let Stefan explain this, because he can explain it better. But
Well, now that Saint Anger lost, I can finally say that Saint Anger made me Saint Angry. Very much so.
You said that on the other podcast.
I know, but I have to. I'm just saying, I have to bring it up. And now that it's lost, I can say it again. So I think what I was saying to you when we were chatting the other day, Reese, was the fact is Super Collider, something that I guess works in Saint Anger's favor in this sense. Super Collider was always supposed to be a radio-friendly album. That's why they wrote the way they did. I remember hearing that Dave Mustaine, he wanted Megadeth to be as like big commercially as Disturbed.
Well, he got the sync of Disturbed on this
Well,
album.
that's true, yeah. And he was he deliberately tried to make this song more radio friendly.
Right. There are parts that do sound like it could work on. They're trying to get on an action movie soundtrack.
Yeah, well, the title track is a great example of that. I think, at least with Saint Anger, Metallica was accused of selling out and all that stuff. This one, they kind of, in a way, get back to their angry thrash metal roots. In a way, obviously, it's very different, and they kind of ride the new metal thing, with not having guitar solos. But you can't accuse this album of being radio friendly, because all the songs are long. The production is. Ugh. And some kind of monster single, like you said, cut in half, whereas Super Collider was written for to be more commercial. So there is something that you can respect about Saint Anger in that fashion. However, the problem with Saint Anger, the problems with any Saint Anger song affects every song. So the bad production, the tin can drums, it affects all the songs. Whereas at least in Super Collider, they don't have that problem. All the guitars and drums, all that sounds great. Obviously, his vocals, Dave Mustaine's vocals is hit and miss on some of the tracks.
They
But-
sounded a bit off on
Yeah.
a few.
Yeah.
But Kingmaker, Kingmaker, it sounds like a great Megadeth song.
an
It's a typical
It's
song.
an uneasy winner, I think, on this.
Yeah. But you have to praise Metallica for, taking the risk the way that Saint Anger does. You'd rather people take a risk, even though the tin can drums didn't sound the way they want to. It sound like crap. At least they gave it a go.
It didn't sound the way fans wanted it.
Well, yeah, that's true. At least they gave it a go. At least they tried to make something completely different, whereas Megadeth, their aim wasn't to try something completely different. It was to make a mainstream album that would chart, and I think it actually did sell kind of well for a Megadeth album.
Yeah. On that point, like, compared to what it is, what everyone says Saint Anger is, the worst thing they've ever heard in their life. But for me, it's, I think for me, I can find solace in Saint Anger compared to Super Collider more so. That's probably why it gets much.
It's a landslide victory for its sole grand point has come from you landsliding Megadeth, Reese.
Yeah. I just found more sweet points in it than Super Collider.
My view is that both albums at some point blend into one, so any of the good tracks have to sound considerably different
Yeah.
to really stand out, which is why I really enjoy Unnamed Feeling, which is why All Within My Hands has started growing on me. The Blackest Crow, as we've discussed earlier, Stefan, that's probably my biggest gripe with both of these albums. They have, Megadeth have got great instrumentation. I'll always say Metallica's my favourite band, but I'll always admit that Megadeth is technically more proficient on their instruments and they
Yeah.
sound great.
Yeah.
But it all
Absolutely.
blended into one at some point for me.
Yeah, they seem to be match and match for some reason. Well, I mean, track-wise as well. Like,
Yes.
and everyone has sort of the same opinion about it, sort of. Like, imagine if Saint Anger had a better production. Like, there were guitar solos and there were no tin can drums.
What you have to do is go to listen to some of the live shows, which
Yeah.
they've played these songs and
But I'd
they've added
also like
solos.
Hetfield's vocals in a better place too.
You know what? If you actually go on YouTube, there's a band who covered the whole album with, better production, no tin can drums.
Okay.
They covered the whole thing. Sounds brilliant.
All right, we'll
Do they cut anything? Like, are the songs the same length?
Yes, they're the
Okay.
same length.
go find it for you and we'll put it on our Facebook page.
Lovely.
Facebook.com/Metal Standoff Pod. Now, is there any final thoughts on these two albums?
Just give them both a listen and know that you'll probably only find like 3 or 4 songs that you like.
And know that your opinion will probably be in, someone will have a different opinion to yours, basically.
Hell, if you love these two albums, let's find out why.
Yeah,
I'd love to.
yeah.
We'd love to hear that kind of discussion. It'd be very interesting to.
I think it would be too, because like these two bring up a lot of discussion amongst the metal community, because
They do.
the big two, basically.
They do, and it was during a period of time where they started going down a road that fans were like, "Hang on, is this my Megadeth? Is this my Metallica?" Considering the Reload, Garage Inc. and S&M road, and Megadeth they were on their way back up after the whole alternative cryptic writings risk period, and then Elfson's lawsuit.
I think they started to come back. Sorry, excuse me. With Endgame, that was a really good Megadeth album, and then they
Yeah.
had 13 with the return of Elfson.
Yes.
Which was like, oh my god, Elfson's
Elfson's
back,
because
and
he
they've
had
done an album.
filed a lawsuit against Mustaine.
Yeah,
at
he
the time.
did. And they thought, like, this is a big point for Megadeth. Like, the classic lineup has 2 now, basically.
Yeah.
But then they do Super Collider, which is like really?
Yeah.
Point.
But luckily for both bands, their follow-up album immediately preceding these two albums are looked at with greater praise. Super Collider was preceded by 2016's Dystopia,
Yes.
which actually won them their first Grammy.
Oh yeah,
Said you
that
mean
was a very
succeeded.
embarrassing moment
That's
because
an embarrassing moment of the Grammys.
because of the Master of
They
Puppets.
came down, the Grammys orchestra came down playing Metallica's Master of Puppets when Megadeth won a Grammy Award for their album Dystopia, but it was a return to form with a
Yep.
brand new guitarist Kiko.
And,
Can't remember his
Pretty
last name.
awkward.
he
And a
w-
new drummer in.
Lamb of God, Chris Adler.
He played for Lamb of God there, Chris Adler, whereas Metallica, they returned in 2008 with Death Magnetic,
That was a brilliant album.
and that is quite
I
an
like
enjoyable
it.
album.
It kind of have a similar problem with Saint Anger with the production being a little bit because it's a bit
I was-
distorted.
Yeah,
But the live versions of every song
Yeah.
sounds great. So I think both of those albums do need a reissue.
remastering, you think?
Reissue, remastering,
a
whatever.
replaying, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, and Justice for All, they'll keep remastering that, but it still sounds the same to me.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
so I think they won't really fix much. They'll just keep it the way it is if they even remaster it. Sorry to bring the episode down.
That's
so.
okay. Well, I was gonna. Well, at least we're about to end it off on a positive note. Yes, we have just reviewed probably arguably two of the greatest metal band's worst albums, but they responded with great albums immediately following that, and you cannot fault that. Anything to plug, Stefan, as we go off?
Yeah, so Rock Capital, the Rock Capital podcast, which is on facebook.com/Rock Capital Pod, same on Twitter, and we recorded an episode with you, Jason, which I'll be putting out soon, and and I also do the Player One, which is a video game show on Sin, facebook.com/Player One Sin, that's SYN.
Monday nights at 8 o'clock.
Monday nights at 8 o'clock, yes. So get to your digital radio or FM radio or TuneIn app or sin.org.au to listen to it every Monday.
And Reese, you are a bass player for Escarion, and I hear that you are currently recording at the moment.
Correction, we have completed recording.
Excellent. Okay,
So-
tell us all about it.
So, book your diaries, even though we probably don't do personal diaries anymore in this day and age, but book your calendars on your smartphones, people, for July 21st, a very important date in Escarion's calendar, for a new single shall be released. And you're going to love it.
And you've also got an EP out on iTunes and Spotify, The Pinnacle of Neglect.
We do. But the most exciting thing is the new single.
Excellent.
It's a really good single. We were recording for a week up in the country, and we had a great time recording it. We got a couple of packages on the way for the fans of Escarion. Nice little behind-the-scenes packages, if you know what I mean.
No worries. Okay. Thank you very much for both of you coming in.
No worries. Thanks for having us, Jason.
Great chat. Thanks very much. So, there you have it. The winner, and therefore least worst, Super Collider by Megadeth. Now, I don't personally enjoy these albums all that much. However, in my humble opinion, only a personal opinion, not fact, it's just opinion. If you want to hear some songs off these albums that aren't all that bad, I would recommend Saint Anger, the title track, The Unnamed Feeling, All Within My Hands, and on the Megadeth side, Kingmaker, The Blackest Crow, and you know what, even the beginning of Sorrow, that one has grown on me since recording. Big thanks again to Reese and Stefan for taking part in today's battle. There was plenty of discussions made on today's show that have been expanded on from discussions on his podcast, Rock Capital. So be sure to check that out, facebook.com/Rock Capital Pod, and Omni.fm, and iTunes, and Spotify. He's covered all grounds. He's a master at what he does. Plus, there is an episode where yours truly had a Great Metal sit-down on Rock Capital, so be sure to check that out. Facebook.com/Rock Capital Pod to support them, and check out all of their podcasts at Omni.fm, iTunes, and Spotify. Now, as you can probably tell, this episode was recorded well in advance, and Reese was telling us about his band Escarion just wrapping up recording of a brand new single. Well, ever since we turned the recording button off in the studio here at the Great Metal Standoff, about less than a week later, Reese and Escarion released a brand new single, and it has earned them some much-deserved exposure, landing them a spot on Triple J Unearthed. The song is called Envy, and it is available on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, and Bandcamp. Go have a little listen to it, and tell the band what you think of it. Do you enjoy it? If you do, be sure to show even more support to them by giving them a follow on Facebook, facebook.com/Escarion Official. And with that, that's all she wrote for another episode right here on the Great Metal Standoff. Thanks very much for listening. Megadeth can walk away saying that they were at least less worse than Metallica's Saint Anger. You can catch all of our other episodes of the show at omni.fm or sin.org.au. And to stay up to date with the show, be sure to check us out at facebook.com/Metal Standoff Pod. And if you just want to use the @ key, it's just merely @Metal Standoff Pod. Plus, if you are a local musician, artist, band member from our wacky world of rock and roll, punk, metal, or anything in between that qualifies as distorted rock, metal, distorted guitar, loud drums, it could be anything. Please do give us a contact. We would love to hear from you. You might have a potential album to... Have you got any battles for us? I could use some more battles to take on board. Be sure to let us know at Metal Standoff Pod or facebook.com/Metal Standoff Pod. That's all from me. Thanks for listening. Over and out, and metal up your ass.